Hello, everyone. This is Sean Smith, and you are tuned in to the Kountryfried Outdoors podcast. This podcast will connect you with resources regionally and nationwide. We will engage our audience and guests in open, honest discussions so that we can inspire growth inside the outdoor community. So strap yourself in. Get those notepads ready, because here we go. All right, everyone, welcome to the very first episode of the Kountryfried Outdoors podcast, Chasing Your Experience. On the phone with me today, I've got Sammy Dunlap, and I'm Sean Smith, and I hope you guys are ready for the roller coaster it's going to be this podcast. Sammy, say what's up, my man.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
So, this is our very first episode, so there's a lot of things I think that we could cover and talk about and go over. So, I don't want to be the one talking all the time, so I'm kind of hand it over to you real quick. So, what are your, podcasting? What are your thoughts? I mean, have you been on one before? Anything like that?
Yeah, prior to this, I had been on one. It is no longer. It didn't last very long, unfortunately, but it was a fun time. It was the Hunt Fish Forages podcast. We mostly talked about crappie fishing and morels on that one, but there were some other episodes that dove deeper into some other hunting, fishing, and foraging issues.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wonder, because you just talked a little bit about that Hunt, Fish, and Forage podcast a little bit with me, and if you don't mind me asking, do you know what happened? Why it went under? They just
I don't. I think it was just a combination of bad timing and, life hitting all at once for the gentleman that was doing it. I'm still in contact with him, and he's doing really well in life. So it's good to see. But yeah, sometimes you get started on something and you just can't get it off the ground like you hoped.
Yeah. Well, I know. I bet we've been running a YouTube channel for 3 years now. And we finally got 405 subscribers. We haven't hit 500 yet. So a lot of these things take a while to take off. Like,
Yeah.
most people have this idea that it's going to be instant success. And there's, about probably 95% of the time it's not successful. And the 5% of the ones that are, it takes several years before it actually does become somewhat of a success. So you got to
Yeah.
keep.
And you're hitting a market now that, for lack of better words, is a bit oversaturated at the moment, but it's still fun to get on and do and have the conversations you can have, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, I think that's what the good thing about podcasting is, that it does allow for a broad spectrum of people to be involved in their pursuits of their hobbies, or whatever their interests are. But the problem is, if you hear a lot of people talk about industries and products, who make products and things like that, like they're craving content, and I don't. Okay, but there's a crap ton of content out there, and it just seems like they just can't get enough. So maybe, maybe just keep pushing. Eventually, somebody somewhere is going to hear something that they like, or whatever. But it is what it is. So, well, good. I'm glad you got some experience being on a podcast. I have not been on a podcast before. Actually, none of my background has ever been in broadcasting. It's always been it's been in law enforcement, and teaching really is where my background comes from. But so, anyways, I guess this is our opportunity to kind of introduce ourselves and who we are and what we do, and how we just kind of have fun with this and let people know what this podcast is going to be about. So, Tammy, I'm gonna hand the floor over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What just just go ahead and tell us, who are you, what you do, and how'd you get into hunting, all that kind of fun stuff.
Who am I? Well, that's still a good question. I'm still looking for the answer to that one. But outside of that, I got into hunting at a pretty early age. I took my hunter safety course around 8, 9 years old, and was kind of off the ground running with mostly shotgun season hunting back in Ohio. Got started that way, probably 10, 11 years old, I think, and got my first shotgun that was officially mine, gifted to me from my father around 13. So it was a lot of good years of, 1 week gun hunting. And once I got a little bit older and learned about archery, it was hard to pass up with the opportunity that you can get in Ohio archery hunting. I mean, the end of September to the end of January is quite the long season versus that 1 week you get with a shotgun. So it wasn't too long that I picked that up around 14, 15, and really hit the ground running after getting a driver's license.
Yeah,
From
because
there,
yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, because of, no, I just wanna make sure you were done talking before I stepped in. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, so that's the thing about Ohio too, because, our laws for minors is that I do believe once you hit 16, and, of course, if somebody can correct me, but I know when I was around that time frame, once you turn 16, you could start hunting by yourself. So it kinda coincided with your first driver's license. And prior to that, you always had to have another like licensed adult with you when you were hunting until you turned 16. Then it was kind of like a free for all. You were on your own if you wanted to be, and to go. So I think that's what I remember. I don't. Do you remember it being something else?
I don't recall, but been quite a while ago for either of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm 39 now, I'll be 40 in March, so, yeah, it's been quite a while, so, I'm kinda like you, getting involved in hunting. Unfortunately, I didn't have, like, a male figure as a father. I didn't have a father. Well, I did, technically, I had a sperm donor, but, I didn't have a father growing up, so a lot of the stuff that I got involved in was because of other outside influences in the neighborhood, and I was lucky to have a couple good mentors, that I really didn't get involved in hunting until I was probably my early teens, I'd say. And there's a neighbor down the street who had a stepson that took us out to our first. He took us out to our first hunter's education. Well, you only get one. Well, you can have as many as you want, but he took us out to hunter's education, and then got us involved in squirrel hunting. And from there, it manifested into finding more friends in the neighborhood that were into deer hunting. Got into shotgun, hunting with a shotgun. Very first year I shotgun hunted, I shot my first deer, which was a button buck, and I was very proud of that deer. And then we started getting into archery, and from there it's been a roller coaster ride. Uh, I've had the opportunity to go to a couple different states and hunt with a bow. Um, which as you start to follow the channel, you're going to realize that I'm very bow heavy. I don't hate gun hunting. It's just there's something about hunting with a compound that is like magical to me. So, but yeah, if it wasn't for the mentors I've had, the male figures and mentors I've had in my life, either finding them or they just falling in my lap. I don't know if I'd ever gotten to the indoors the outdoors like I have. So yeah, I totally understand that.
That's very good. You were fortunate enough to have those mentors down the road, and I'm sure lifelong friend at some or through the point. And it's funny you mentioned the small game because I kind of fell into it backwards. It seems like a lot of folks start out with small game, squirrels and rabbits, going that way. But I'd started with whitetail and kind of became a late onset small game hunter.
Yeah, that was interesting. I still remember the first squirrel. It was quite the trip, but uh, the one I felt bad for this guy though because he gave me a single shot shotgun. And this is kind of a funny story, and it was a single shot break action shotgun, and it was a single action. So there were you had to cock the trigger the hammer back for it to fire. There was no um there was no double action where you pulled the trigger and then it was, the hammer would come back and strike. It was all single action. So you had to pull it back. So it was a hairpin trigger, right? So
Mm.
when he gets to set up on the hill and I got my single action shotgun and I got the hammer, cocked back because I think I remember hearing like I thought a squirrel was coming up, right? And never did. And the funny thing is about this whole thing is that he kind of explained me how to work it. He just never explained me how to decock it. And so
No.
it was time to go, right? And he comes walking up, and he's like, "Hey, did you guys see anything?" I'm like, "No," because I had my friend, his stepson, with me, and he's like, "All right, well, it's time to go. Let's go ahead and decock your gun." I'm like, and how do I do this? Now, mind you, I'm early teens, like I'm not very old at this point in time, and he's like, "Well, what you got to do is you got to put your thumb up on the hammer, and then kind of hold it, and then press the trigger." Okay. So I did exactly what he said, and unfortunately, it goes pow,
Oh no.
and he's in front of me, which is makes it even worse. Luckily, I had it pointed down towards the ground, but the look on his face was priceless, and I'm like, "This man's going to kill me in the woods," and it's, I better start
Yep.
praying now because I'm not making it home. Uh,
Yeah, maybe a quick demonstration from him prior would have been little more ample than just oh, word of mouth explanation.
Yeah, but you know how it goes in the old day. Like, it's good enough.
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I gotta praise that man for his patience, though, because I don't know if I would have handled that the same way he did. He just kind of gave me a weird look for a minute, and then from there he calmed down, didn't yell, didn't scream, and we kind of discussed it, and that was the end of it. So. But it wasn't
Yeah.
soon after that I got my hands on a pump shotgun, so there was no more break action single shot shotguns for Sean. Um, I don't know if that was by design or or if I graduated. I don't know, but and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
S-
With age comes experience. So
Yeah. Hey, give me a couple seconds because it sounds like my wife's having some issues with the sweeper out there. So give me. I'm gonna pause this real quick. I'll be right back.
okay.
All right, recording's
Thanks.
back on. All right. I think we're back. We just left off with me almost shooting one of my mentors, which luckily that didn't happen, and we were able to get past that. So
Man, it went down another path if that happened.
yeah, maybe I would not be hunting if that did happen because I'd probably be emotionally scarred for the rest of my life for
Yeah.
shooting somebody.
But accidents happen, and that's why we always keep it pointed in a safe direction.
Yes, rule number one: never point your shotgun at anything you don't want to shoot or you don't want to shoot or destroy.
Exactly.
Well, actually, it's not rule number one, but it is one of the rules. Anyways,
Well, it's a top rule
yeah,
nonetheless.
it's one of the 4 firearm safety rules. So, well, anyways,
Oh,
so yeah, so that's a little bit of background on ourselves. But you here well, not recently. You've been there for some time, but you
yeah.
felt you fell in love with another state, and decided to leave Ohio and moved over to well, yeah, what you're in Colorado, right?
We're in Colorado now. It was actually narrowed down to two different states between here and Maryland. The wife had finished college and got her degree to be a teacher, and those were the two places offering jobs. So I told her to pick a spot on the map. Now, when it all came about, that lovely virus that everybody like loves to hate and hates to love came around, COVID-19, right around the time she was graduating. So the place in Maryland wouldn't let us come visit and see the area or any of the schools. And the place out here in Colorado certainly did. So it was made the decision a little easier when you got to get a feel for the environment you were potentially going to be spending your life in.
Yeah, and be honest with you, I think you made the best choice, anyways.
Yeah, I mean, from what I was reading prior, I was trying to get excited about both states. I'd already been to Colorado once, but from what I was reading about the outdoor experiences in Maryland, I would not have been disappointed there either. Some of their gun laws are a little squirrely and a lot different, but aside from that, the outdoor recreation opportunities still there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. When I think of recreational outdoors, Maryland's not one of the top states that come in mind, like Colorado. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, no. But they do have a sitka deer population, which would have been very interesting. They have pretty good waterfowl habitat from what I was reading, and all the stuff that comes with living around water as far as fishing, crabbing, all that good stuff.
yeah, that's you. I'm not a waterfowl person, and and
Well, it's funny. I wasn't until I moved here. I kind of went at that backwards too.
well, you're just that. I think that's been your mission of life. It's been
Just
your it's been your
find more things to pursue.
it's been your mo your whole life doing everything's ass backwards. But
Hey, I can't
anyways,
help it.
no, hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's my calling.
It's what I was meant to do. I'm just answering the call.
Hey, sometimes it's how it hits you.
Yeah. So you guys had some exciting news here recently. You guys just acquired a new puppy, right?
We did. In my current waterfowl experience over the last 3.5 years, it was time we went and picked out a dog, and we got a yellow lab, and hopefully turn him into the retriever of all retrievers. Right now, we're pretty far behind getting him at 5 months, but he'll get there. All good things take time.
Yeah, they do. And hopefully he's not like my lab and hates water. So
So far, water, which we haven't had him around too much water, but the rain he's been fine with. So imagine everything else he'll do all right.
yeah, our black lab, he loves water. The silver one, not so much.
And what was that experience he had that made him have such a disdain?
Oh, name them. There's a few. The one he decided he was going to chase a bunch of ducks that were on our deck, and it overlooks our pond, and it was wet, so he's full bore running at these ducks, and then he realized that he's coming to the end of the I should say dock, really not deck. He was running out of real estate on the dock, so he goes in the all four-wheel drive, full lockup, slides right into the water. and and I don't know how kosher this is, but he kind of looked like the special kid in the pool when he's swimming. So he doesn't he doesn't do very well with the whole water thing, and therefore he's not really cared for water since. He's never really
Yeah.
cared for water though. Like he doesn't like the rain. He's gotten better. I mean, he's got his own raincoat. If you believe that, we have a raincoat for him, and he's a lab, and he tolerates the rain at that point. So
That I did not know. I'm glad I know that now.
yeah, we got a raincoat for him. We don't wear it very often because we don't normally go out that much when it's raining. But there's a few days when it does nothing but rain. He absolutely has to go out. So we put
Yeah.
the raincoat
Yeah.
on him, and off we go. Oh
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, it looks more like a cape than it does anything else, but he loves that thing, man. He
It
loves
doesn't
it.
sound like his friends make fun of him, and he seems to be happy.
Yeah,
So that's good.
man, it's it. Hey, listen. No, yeah, like you said, friends ain't making fun of him, and he's proud of it. So whatever,
Small victories.
right?
Better than a puddle on the floor.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So let's dive in a little bit deeper. So you've been part of a podcast before, and now it's your chance to actually be one of the main driving factors of a podcast. What are we are just getting started. So obviously, we've got a lot of leeway to go, and as we begin to mold this into what we want it to be. But what are some of your initial thoughts on where you see this podcast going?
To start with, I'm just happy to be a part of it and be able to produce some content opposed to people see my name on the Kountryfried Outdoors YouTube screen and still wonder who the hell is that guy? Why does his name keep showing up? He doesn't do anything. My lack of camera equipment prevents me from that, and my terrible habit of, making purchases elsewhere other than a camera seem to prevent me from that. I intend to eventually have a Tacticam to throw on the shotgun for some waterfowl stuff. That way we can throw on some more content around the year, along with the deer content. But as far as, where the direction of the podcast should go, the only thought I have is just keeping a good light conversation, and hopefully people enjoy the listen and maybe pick up some information they weren't aware of along the way. That being said, it's just nice to have this conversation and the many conversations and the efforts of keeping people interested in the outdoors.
Yeah, and it's I kind of agree with you on this because the idea of mine was that I wanted to make sure that we're connecting people, and obviously in the intro I talk a lot about connecting people with resources and engaging in conversations and stuff, but the big deal behind this is just inspiring people to go out and kind of chase their own experience, in my opinion, because I feel there's a big push in number one, the big push in the social media is that it's just basically just deleting the accounts or blocking the accounts from being seen by people who aren't followers of the accounts. Just recently, Instagram had a big hit on a lot of the outdoor accounts. We were spared. Apparently, we're not popular enough, but a lot of the accounts on Instagram were hit with a not following the community guidelines because of sharing stuff, and therefore they won't be part of any recommendations. In other words, they're not going to. It's going to severely hamper them reaching new accounts of people that don't already follow them. And it pretty much said,
Basically, shadow banning the people they don't agree with.
yeah, absolutely. And so the idea behind this, but the next thing that also is the issue with social media is all the like shaming that takes place on there, for people who are going out and chasing the experiences that they want. and then they're happy and they're proud about these experiences, and then they post them because they're happy and they're proud and they want to share it. But then there's the trolls who show up and then try to tear them down. And I'm not talking about anti-hunters. I'm talking about people who are hunters, people who are in the outdoors, and they shame them because they didn't shoot a 6.5-year-old, 160 class inch buck. Like, oh, I can't believe you shot a 120-inch 3-year-old deer. You should have let that grow up, or stuff like
Yeah, and
that.
that's becoming a real problem within our community. And as hunters, we should be standing together. There are guys who can only get out 2, 3 days a year. They don't have jobs or life situations to where they can go out and take a month off and hunt for that period of time, or be able to hunt specific time frames for rut of this species and that species. A lot of people have been kind of taking things for granted when they don't know who's going through what. The goal of hunters is to buy licenses and keep putting money towards conservation. And if we want to do that, we need to be encouraging of each other instead of imploding from the inside out.
Yeah, and you know, you're right. We there unfortunately there's a big divide, and you can name divides in a lot of different areas, like traditional bow hunters versus compound bow hunters versus crossbow hunters, bow hunters versus rifle hunters, gun hunters versus bow hunters, Sika wares versus, Walmart wares, like, Walmart brand, Mossy Oak wares. Like it's, and I say all that stuff because I'm not trying to poke fun at any one of those groups, but it just only to illustrate the fact that there's so many divides in our community that we spend too much time trying to focus on pushing the experience that we want onto other people, and
Exactly.
I don't feel that that is what we should be doing. Now, I'm not going to lie. There are certain experiences that I don't want. Like, I don't want to be part of a high fence hunt. I'm not. I'm going to tread lightly when I say this. Like, I'm not against it. If someone wants to be involved, wants to go do it, they want to pay the money. And that's what they want to do. Fine. I'm okay with that as long as it's legal, it's ethical, and the business or whoever is up to par. I get that, and I'm not. And like, because I've said before in an article I wrote that those people who share those pictures of their kill, their harvest, have the exact same smile on their face that I do. Um,
Yeah.
so
And a big thing a lot of people lose when they see it was shot in a high fence facility is, that's a lot of money spent to take that animal. But that's money that they spent their life working hard for. So whether or not it's the experience you want, it's the experience they put forth to earn.
right, and so more power to them. Like I said, it's not the experience that I want, but it is.
Agreed.
I'm not going to shame them because they are doing it. You know what I mean? So
Agreed.
that's kind of my thoughts with this podcast is that we really encourage people to chase the experience that they want, and of course there's parameters to that. Like, you just can't go out and just start willy-nilly killing anything and everything you come across. Like, there are rules and regulations that you have to follow, and there's maybe some guidelines out there, but as long as it's legal, it's ethical. Like, do you, right? If you want to backpack in 10 miles and go after whatever name insert species, fine. Or if you want to go pay uh, you know, pay one of the high fence areas, tens of thousands of dollars to go pursue what you want to do, then so be it. Like I said, if it's legal, it's ethical, more power to you. And
And that's the biggest thing in chasing your experience too. Know the rules and regulations where you're going to be hunting. If it's going to be somewhere you grew up your whole life or an experience you have out of state, make sure you fine tooth comb everything. That way, when you do run into the warden or the other law enforcement that may be around, know the regulations. That's on you. It's not on anyone else.
right. And I think that would be a good segue for us or at least a good direction for us with the podcast too, is that maybe, and I know, so I work for the government, right? And so I know how the government operates when it comes to their employees or their people talking to media outlets. It's usually don't say a word. Um, and that's, it's not because they're trying to hide something. It's so that there's a collective voice that is presenting the information, or that that they're presenting the right information, or the information that the organization is actually trying to to follow, because if you notice, all organizations, no matter what size they are, well, let me rephrase, most organizations, they have their media team, and that's their job. Everyone else is not to speak to anybody in the media, and it's up to the media team to do that. With that said, I would like to get involved, like, a lot of these, maybe people who are involved with the DNRs, as we refer to in Ohio, the Department of Natural Resources. I think in Colorado, it's the Parks and Wildlife. Get
It
them
is.
involved, to kind of discuss some of those nuances of some of their rules and regulations, or at least how to better understand those things. And of course, that's grand scale thinking, so that's down the road. We got a lot of hurdles right now to kind of uncover ourselves before we get there. But I want that to be part of this, because it's about growth inside of our industry, so that we can chase those experiences, and we could do so safely and ethically and legally. So maybe that's something that we can cycle back to. So absolutely.
Yep, and you get a lot of people, online. I'm sure a lot of it's satire and jokes, but you get a lot of pushback on the law enforcement within the wildlife side of these game wardens. And, if you're not doing anything wrong, if you're paying attention to your rules, it's going to be a pleasant experience when you run into them. We were just out hunting the other day, and he came up to the duck blind, and wasn't much going on to begin with, but it wouldn't have mattered either way. He shows up, you need to comply, show him your license, your stamps, whatever's required. We were duck hunting, so he wanted to check the ammo, make sure we had plugs in the gun. It was a pleasant experience, and we gained some knowledge of some other spots to try out in the area. So it doesn't have to be a bad experience unless you make it a bad experience.
And that's, what, coming from this side of the, from that side of the fence, that's exactly 100% right. Listen, they have a job to do. And I know no one likes to get in trouble. The end. Like, even cops don't like to get in trouble. Like, we don't like to get in trouble. We have an adversity to it. Um, Sometimes you make mistakes, and it happens, right? And the biggest thing is, like, if you made a mistake, you screwed up, admit it, accept it, and work towards not trying to do it again in the future. There are laws that are put in place, and I'll be honest with you, there are some laws that I don't agree with, but they're the law of the land, and people who are smarter than us, thought about them, and they put them into the books, and it's the laws that we have to follow. Um, and that's, by design, everyone in this country are supposed to follow those laws, but we know how that goes. Anyways,
Right.
but
Right.
anyways,
But
yeah,
it was put there because it had been done before, and maybe wasn't a good thing that they were seeing. So it was time to nip it in the bud and move on.
right, and it doesn't necessarily mean that some laws are put in, there that some laws aren't put in with the best intentions. It just ends up being the wrong implementation of something. And
Yeah, no doubt about that. But we
like,
could stay on that all day.
yeah, we could. And I was just going to bring up one point. It's like the one thing that like, we had a conversation last time you and I were elk hunting, when it came to archery elk hunting, and that the fact that there is a 4 point limit on a bull to be legal in Colorado. Now,
Four
the big
point or the 5 inch brow
yeah,
tine.
or the 5 inch brown tine. And the argument would be, obviously, is that you're trying to improve the age class of deer. All right. So my counterpoint is that we have way more deer hunters that show up in the state of Ohio that are killing deer with no point restrictions. And we have a lot of big deer here, like a lot of big deer. And so I don't necessarily know if that's the best way to go about it, but that's the way they chose to go about it, and it hasn't changed, and that's the rules I have to abide by.
Yep, and it's not looking like it's going to change, which neither here nor there. I'm kind of in the middle with it. I'm glad, and that's fine. But I also would not be upset getting a spike tag every now and then.
Right. And it's not, and like I said, it's the rules we have to follow. And although I don't agree with it, and 100%, like I don't feel so strongly about the where I'm ready to, like, start writing congressmen to change it. Like, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if this necessarily is. I don't know if this is necessary for you to achieve the goal that you're trying to achieve with this, right? If that's what you say is
Right.
your goal. But anyways, so, like, back to the point, like, you listen, follow the rules, follow the regulations and stuff. And hopefully with this podcast, as it grows, we'll be able to get some names in here that will be able to help us explore a lot of those topics, and, make everyone a little bit better at what we do, right? To help push that bar a little bit further ahead. So, well, good. I think we got a good idea of which way we want this to go. I just wanted us to get together.
Absolutely.
want us to get together and talk a little bit, kind of get a good intro to kind of, give people an idea of who we are and what we want to do. So let's take a different or go, you sound like you got something to say. What's up?
No, I was just gonna say, it's gonna be a good experience. In the theme of chasing your experience, it's gonna be fun to share some of our experiences with the community and the folks who tune in.
All right. So I want to, before we close it out, I want to go through a series of questions here real quick though. And
Sure.
so the very first one is, what has been your most memorable hunt?
Man, it would have been shotgun season in Ohio. I can't remember how long it's been now. I'd have to pull the tag out and look, but my cousin and I were in their woods. It started snowing, probably put down 5, 6 inches that day, and we went out for an evening hunt. And we found a rock with a big crack in it, and he kind of went on one side, and I kind of tucked up in the other side, and the crack just kind of laying on my back. Um, and we sat there, and it was pushing within the 30 minutes of legal light coming to a close. And I'm laying there and I just kind of peek my head up, and this beautiful, I'd say, I'm not good at aging deer, but if I had to guess, a 3.5-year-old 8 point buck comes strolling in about 25 yards. And there I am laying on my back in the crevice of a rock. And I'm able to roll my shoulder and line the sights up and dropped him in his tracks. And that was probably at the time and still now a hunt that I still go through in my head that just couldn't have gone any better.
That's a good experience. You know, there's a few that kind of stick out in mind for me, and where I'm doing my podcast, I'm kind of looking at reminders of at least three of those hunts, and hopefully a fourth one will be here before too long. But, um, you know, whether it's the first year or the first big, I'll tell you the one that really sticks to me the most. It was not a successful hunt. It should have been, but it wasn't. But it was one of those ones that really got me thinking about what I was using and what I could do to do better. Um, was It was the first trophy sized buck that actually put an arrow in. Like I've been bow hunting for several years and I had a lot of close calls, but nothing came together until this night. And it was the night before gun season. Literally, it was the night before gun season. And not this year, several years ago. And I'm sitting up on a ridge and I see it's getting to be that not twilight, but it's I bet you probably have about 45 minutes before like legal shooting light is out. And I look behind me, and here comes this nice 10 point buck. Comes right on a string, almost like he's reading the script. And he comes up past me, stops it. I stop him at 23 yards, and I got a good aim on him. Everything felt great, and I was using lighted Nox at the time, and lighted Nox lighter arrow, which was around 400 grains, and maybe it was somewhere around 400 grains. I remember that, and I was using Rage two blade mechanicals. I think I was using the hypodermics at the time, and I squeezed the trigger, and there was no like pre-ignition push, none of that. It was a clean release, and I watched the arrow as it went down, hit the deer, and it pinned like he took off with more than 90% of the arrow sticking out of him. I shoot 30 inches, 70-pound bow. There is no reason at 20 yards that should have happened. Because the
Wow.
placement because the placement wasn't like it wasn't very far forward, and it wasn't very, it was probably right about the crease of the shoulder, right? And at the angle that he was at, it was a little bit higher, but not a lot higher. So I would say I probably hit probably the paddle of the shoulder, but I didn't get any penetration, right? And the
Right.
deer ran down the hill, and I was excited because like, oh my goodness, I just shot my first like good buck. I'm calling people, right? So it had snowed, and I didn't drive up to where we normally park. So I actually brought my four wheeler up there. I went back to the four wheeler. Actually, I didn't even take the four wheeler back down the hill. Like I did not want to disturb this deer at all, right? So I started walking down the hill, and all of a sudden I look down, and there's a big buck sitting there staring at me. But I don't see an arrow, I don't see any, lighted knock or anything, right? And he's staring at me, and he takes off. Long story short, it ends up being the buck that I had shot, right? We had tracked him that night, ended up kicking him up again. Very little blood. If there wasn't any snow on the ground, we probably wouldn't have seen any blood for the most part. Never did find my arrow. We kicked him up a good distance, like I'm talking probably a half a mile or more from where I had shot him.
Yeah.
We had gotten some permissions of where to permissions to get on some other properties to go chase after him, and we kicked him up, and we went back and we called it from there on. Like there's no we can't keep chasing after him. So we went back. It was gun season. Luckily, some of the people that were hunting were, more than happy to let us kind of walk through to see if we can find him. We never did find him. No evidence of him. Nothing. Right. And I don't know whatever happened to that deer. Um, so that was one of those ones that really got me starting to think about what I was using, because at 70 pounds and 30-inch draw, I don't care what you're using. At 20 yards, you should be able to get enough penetration into a deer to kill it. And if you're not, there's something wrong with that. And that's what really started to get me to start looking more into fixed blades. Now, don't get me wrong, I still shoot a mechanical here and there, but I definitely switched on what I was using, and started pursuing the fixed blade option um, from there. So yeah, that was probably one of the most memorable ones that really got me going. And not to add to that, but he was the third deer that I had shot that year and did not recover. Um,
Oh, no. Yeah, it's
so
that type of heartbreak and,
yeah,
seeing that many animals, unfortunately wounded, but seemingly not mortally wounded. It's still heartbreaking to see something like that. And it's good on you to take the time and research and dive into, the stuff that you have to improve the quality and kill that you get, to make it more ethical.
yeah, and that's yeah, it's one of those things. Like if you notice that there's something wrong, do a deep dive. Sometimes 90% of the time it's you, because I'll be the first to tell you a lot of people are very quick to blame the equipment. Um, and then once you fix you, if you're still having issues, then obviously it's your equipment and you need to start looking at what you're using. Um, I'm not saying that you shouldn't shoot mechanicals, and I'm not telling you that you shouldn't shoot fixed blades. I'm telling you that you need to find what works for you and make that work. There are some general guidelines, some general guidance, and I'm not getting into in this like, right now in this episode of the podcast. Maybe for a later one, we'll kind of discuss some things. Um, but the idea that about this is that um, don't be afraid to take that deep dive. And like Einstein said, the definition of insanity um, is going about things the same way, expecting different results. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result and you're not getting it, um, you might want to look at that. So,
Absolutely.
but so, yeah, so that was the last time so that got me really thinking about what I was using, and got me going a different direction there. So, all right, so that's the most memorable hunt. So let's throw this out here. All right, you have the opportunity to go on the dream hunt of any your dream hunt, whatever it is. Like all expenses paid. Like there's nothing that would stop you from doing this hunt. What would it be?
Man, it's funny. You always think about that question, roll that question around in your head, especially when I lived in Ohio. But honestly, I'm living it. I get to hunt multiple species in, a crazy state that I thought was just a far fetched dream and an experience you'd get once in a lifetime. But being able to be where I am in life and do what I can do is more than I can ask for. I'm living the dream, man. that's uh that's what it is for me. I get to chase elk, I get to chase deer, I can, chase bear. I bought a mountain lion tag more so to have in my pocket, but we'll still go out and see what we see. It seemed like a far fetched reality, but now we're living it. So it's it's here for me. How about yourself?
Well, for me, I'm not going to be as humble as you. I am going to say, I've been blessed. I've been able to, I've come out to hunt elk with you a couple times, or at least come out to hunt elk with you once, and then we went out together while you're still living here in Ohio to hunt elk. Been to Texas for wild boar. So I've gotten to travel a little bit. The one hunt that I think that if I could get away with doing it, and to be honest, it's not moose. That's the one thing that like, oh, moose. No, actually, it's caribou. I would love to go do a caribou hunt. It's just I don't know what it is. It's just something seems. It's very appealing to me is to go out and pursue those animals in that big flat open range up there in the tundra. It sounds like it's a difficult hunt, and it's one of those ones that is really based upon the migration. Like a couple of people I know have been on the list to go, but either the outfitters folded on them or the migration just wasn't happening, so their trip got canceled. Like so, it's just one of those things, and it's on my list of things that I would really like to do. So
Well, after the show, we can talk, and I can put you in contact with someone who's been on one so far, and he does intend to go back. So maybe we can get you guys in talks for something like that.
yeah, yeah, well, definitely. Like I'm always open to that. Like the caribou is high on the list there, so I'd appreciate that conversation. So anyway, so there it is. That is our most memorable hunt and also our bucket list hunt, which sounds like Sammy's living it right now. Um, uh, I'm not as humble as him. I'm not afraid to tell you that I want to go up north and shoot a caribou. Um, but here's the caveat to that. I want to go up north, shoot a caribou, and bring it all back with me. Like,
Yeah, no doubt.
you hear the guys that do the hunts for like moose, and that they leave like 80% of the meat in the village
No,
because they can't afford to fly it back with them. I'm like, I want it all to come back. I'm not trying to be selfish, but at the same time, like I want it all to come back with me. Like
I,
that's kind of my point for hunting. It's not, well, let me rephrase that. So the experience is number one for me. Getting that experience that that I want to have with that experience, that encounter is number one for me. But the next part of that is also like I want the food, the meat that's associated with it because I don't.
it's all great.
Yeah, and guys, don't take this the wrong way when I say this, but I do not like to kill things that I'm not going to eat. So I don't have any like if you're like predator hunting things like that, I have nothing against that. I will still go coyote hunting. I don't eat coyote obviously, but I don't have any. I just don't have a lot of drive to go hunt something I'm not going to eat. So it's kind of what keeps me from bear hunting. Not because I wouldn't eat it, just I don't know anybody around here that goes bear hunting and has bear meat for me to try. Like I want to try. I don't want an animal to go to waste. You know what I mean?
I'm one of those rare birds. I'll try just about anything once. Haven't got a bear yet, but looking forward to getting my hands on some of that meat and seeing what it's about.
Right. And like I said, don't take that the wrong way. Like I'm not against bear hunting. I'm not against predator hunting. They need to be managed. They need to be taken care of as much as our other animals do. It's just for me personally, like the experience I'm looking for is things that I'll eat, but hey, to each their own. Anyways,
Again, chasing your own experience.
that's right. That's exactly why we're here. Anyways, anything else you got to say, man?
No, sir. Like I said earlier, I'm looking forward to getting more in depth into our experiences and, people seeing the experiences on YouTube. Don't be afraid to comment with questions and check out the social medias and fire questions or things our way. We're open to listen.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we are on the Instagram, Kountryfried Outdoors on the Instagram and also on YouTube. We have, I guess, Facebook, but no one really checks that. So if you find us on Facebook, don't try. uh, but definitely on the Instagram and on YouTube. I think we got at
Uh,
least 70 plus videos on the YouTube channel.
and
There's a
give them a
series.
shout on how to spell that handle there.
Yeah, it's I had to be difficult coming up with the name. It's Country Fried, which is spelled with a K. Everything else is spelled exactly the same, but it's Country Fried with a K Outdoors. And actually on YouTube, it's Country Fried Outdoor Productions. Once again, I had to be difficult. So if you just do a search on that on Google, you'll end up finding you'll find all of our stuff. So, but yeah, we're on Instagram, we're on the YouTube. Just posted a video from Rutcation 2023, a successful Rutcation, by the way, on there. I'm pretty proud of that production. I don't know if you got a chance to see it yet.
I have, and it was great. Everything came together really well, and it was well. I won't give any spoilers. I almost let one slip there. They can go watch and find out.
Yeah, they can, well, if you come to our Instagram, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. But yeah, come check it out on the YouTube channel. Leave a comment, leave a like, and also Obviously share it. And same thing with this podcast is that we hope you guys find it amusing and that it inspires you to go out and chase the experience that you want, right? Don't let anyone troll you out of the experience that you want. It is your experience, not theirs. And at the same token, don't try to force your experience on the next person. If they want to try it, be my guest. Explain to them exactly how to do it and how you like how you do it. And if they want to learn from you, that's fine. But if they're not asking for it, leave them the hell alone. Anyways, ladies and gents, my name is Sean Smith, and on the other line, that's Sammy Dunlap. And for Kountryfried Outdoors, chasing your experience, we hope you guys stay safe out there as you are chasing the experience. And as always, until the next one, God bless you guys.